Okay, take 5. Aha! Eat up and sign up. My name is Steve Goldman, and I'm a board member of ALL. I'm going to introduce you to several of our board members and lecturers who will give you their perspectives as to why you might wish to participate in our offerings and how this will help you to achieve your goals, from the mundane to the serious.
Cut.
I'd like to introduce Dr. Wayne Bell, who's with me to talk about how he got involved with Academy for Lifelong Learning. Dr. Bell, your courses on birding on the Eastern Shore have been some of the most popular that we have given so far, and their attendance has been off the charts. Can you tell us, how did you get interested in birding? What's your background, and did you meet any famous people along the way?
PhD is in marine microbiology, which sounds pretty far from birding. But in fact, it's based on a long history of outdoors and outdoor life for me. And my first birds, when I look back at my life list, some of the first entries were made back in 1955. So I go back at least that far.
Did they have birds in 1955?
They had some. Some of them were pterodactyl sized, but you know, we swept them off the porch and kept going. Part of the catalyst for that was my father. He was an outdoorsman and fisherman, but also I was fortunate enough to live down the street 2 doors from Rachel Carson. And I got to know her just about the time I started off to college. She got me interested in marine science, but we also did some birding and some astronomy together with some other neighbors. And then when I was in graduate school, I met the likes of some of the more exciting ecologists of the time. Ecology was breaking through, and I got really interested in something that was more than just natural history, a sort of predictive science. And probably the most prominent of those people was Edward O. Wilson, who really got me interested in what you could see out your car window as you drove by. Emphasized was not so much identification of birds, but actually how the species were grouped, where they occurred, how they behaved, those types of things, those types of larger patterns.
Well, can you tell the audience, why do so many people want to take courses in birding?
Attracted people to the course. One is birds themselves. People just want to know. They don't want to know what those little brown jobbies are and just call it a sparrow. They want to know more about it. They want to know about the bald eagle and the osprey and the migrants that go through. The other is that curiosity, if you might say. The fact is that people are genuinely curious, and I think like a lot of courses here, that curiosity is satisfied by what the Maritime Museum is doing. And so I'm just...
I think birds are special too. I had duck last night with orange sauce. It was delicious.
Well, you cooked my goose. Just when I drove down here, there was a car by the side of the road. I guess they had a quack up.
I hope you got that. I'd like to introduce Richard Harrison, who is a course leader, lecturer, and a present board member of ALL. Richard, what is your view on the present state of ALL, its past and upcoming courses, and what it has to offer?
Thank you, Steve. First, I'd like to give it a little bit of background. I worked for 39 years for a company as a research and development, director of research and development for Baltimore Aircoil. I lived 32 years on the Western Shore, aka the dark side. In 2006, I saw the light, and I moved to the Eastern Shore. I retired in 2013 and have been participating in ALL since 2014. And as I look at ALL in those 6 years, I see the 3 different areas that I thought I'd like to highlight. One is the broad spectrum of the courses that are offered in ALL. Birding, trees, music, Civil War, memoir writing, space exploration, great decision course on eight different global subjects, climate change, photographic classes, Shakespeare, nonfiction books, exercise, self-defense, making and eating paella, and even sampling Italian cheeses. And that's probably only about a third or a fourth of the courses. The second big area, I think, of what ALL is the group of experts that have shared some of their incredible stories from their working careers, and some of those that I remember, John and Emily Miller's 2014 course, Semester at Sea, Teaching of Life Experiences. I might also mention that John Miller is the ALL's most prolific course leader in that he has presented 44 ALL courses. Most of them have been with his tag team co-leader, John Ford. Rich Wagner, Science Advisor to the President's 2017 course, Nuclear Weapons and the National Security in the 21st Century. David Hunt's 32-year CIA officer, 2018 course, Intelligence in Flux, from the Cold War to the present. Third category I think that is really interesting in ALL are the people that have had a lifetime working experience in one field and then went totally different in retirement. A couple of people fit that mold. Ron Lesher, a 32-year administrator with the New Jersey Department of Education. At ALL, Ron has given 23 courses with titles such as Battle for God, Booze, Carriages and Watches, Taxing Luxuries, Gödel, Escher, Bach, Multiple Levels of Music, Art and Mathematics, Black Hole War. Here's my favorite, Doc, I Need a Drink. I also must point out that for some of these courses, his wife Annabelle was a co-presenter. Actually, Annabelle was present in most of those courses, probably to keep him straight. Ram has truly expanded his horizons into many different fields. The other person that I think really fits this mold is you, Steve, who has presented 10 ALL courses, including Extra Extra, Read All About It, Field Trip to the Museum, How U.S. Newspapers Covered the War of 1812, American War, Newspaper History of Wars Fought in the in America, 1492 to 2003, 225 years of U.S. presidential elections, 6 centuries of crime in America, and most recently, Harry Houdini exhibit to the Jewish Museum of Maryland, and 225-year history of aviation and space exploration, 1783 to 2000. So Steve, what is your story, and how did your new career happen?
Well, first of all, I was a dentist practicing periodontics in the Baltimore area for 50 years, but the job got me down in the mouth, so I had to look for something else to do. I've been a history buff for the past 60, 65 years, and I really got started with collecting historical newspapers when my father died in 1969, and I found a group of newspapers in the bottom drawer of his dresser. My mother had asked me to clean out his dresser, and I never knew that he had them there, but he put away the events of his life that were significant to him. And it started with the end of World War I and went on with Lindbergh's crossing the Atlantic, the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, the assassination of Kennedy, and so on and so forth, just like many people put away items of interest today. I decided to look into where I could get more newspapers and what I could do to build a collection, and started writing letters to various historical societies, libraries, and naval officers around the country, and was able to come up with a lot of the newspapers that they were getting rid of when they went on microfilm. And at some point in my career, I decided I was going to build the largest collection of historical newspapers in private hands, and did so, and was then contacted by the museum over in Washington, and the rest, as they say, is history, no pun intended. I like to use the newspapers as what I call a time machine or flying carpet of history, where you can actually travel through the time that events happened and see what people were thinking of at the time. And I'd like to introduce Annabelle Lesher. Annabelle, you have been with the ALL since its creation. Can you tell us when and how it all began?
I remember a first organizational meeting, I think it was 1999 in the Dodson House, and I know John Miller and John Ford, I think, were both there, and we discussed, should we even try something like this? Is this a good idea? Do you think it will work? And we decided, well, let's give it a try. So within a year or so, I can't remember exactly how long, we offered our first course. Bob Whitlock organized a course on the history of Talbot County, which, as it turned out, was way too big a subject. We did that in several segments, I think.
Well, you're known widely as the person who's taken more courses than anyone else on record. Can you remember which of these courses was your favorite and why?
Well, I can't point to one course, but I'll tell you a series that we do is what we often refer to as John and John. John Miller and John Ford, each term, offer something in the literature line. Sometimes we're reading fiction, we could be reading Shakespeare, we could be reading nonfiction, and then analyze them and discuss it in class. And I really like those.
Well, you know, we are actually giving that course this semester. It's given in the bathroom at the Van Lennep Auditorium, and the title of the course is John and John in the John. Would you like to sign up for that one?
We'll look into that.
Are you pointing at him? Are you catching him?
Well, as the last question of the day, I want to ask Gloria Aiken, who has been behind the camera all morning long. Is your first name really Glory?
So yes, my mother's name was Gloria, and I was named Glory.
Okay.
That's a true story.
What was your maiden name?
Moyna.
I beg your pardon?
Moyna. Proud Irish name.
Moyna?
Yes.
Are you related to Moynihan, David Moynihan?
No, I'm not, but the names are related somehow.
Is that right?
In Ireland, yeah.
You know what part of Ireland you came from?
I do. County Tyrone.
I know it well. I know it well, yes. I met a leprechaun from there. His name was Glory, too.
Steve, this is why we chose you to be the interviewer. You are incredible. Incredible.
Okay, that's a cut.
Okay.